Well, it's Friday the 2nd of August. A new lunar cycle has begun, the first since June not to be eclipsed. This is episode 1918 of 301 Permanently Moved Online, a personal podcast 301 seconds in length, written, recorded, and edited in 1 hour by me, at the JMO. Hello to all my new subscribers. Thank you to those that have rated this show on iTunes or in your podcatcher apps. If you haven't done so already, I'd really appreciate it and would consider it a belated kind of birthday support. This episode kind of comes from the Dark Forest Chats with Lewis Center, coiner of the fantastic phrase, if you are surprised by anything on the internet in 2019, you are 100% a boomer. And it's that surprise that I want to talk about this week, as the levels of boomer confusion and god-awful reporting on the 16-year-old Booger winning $3 million in the Fortnite World Cup have reached new heights. As with everything in 2019, another huge cultural behemoth has crept up on you whilst you were glued to the 24-hour news cycle and endless police procedurals. Firstly, some numbers. For all of Marvel's bluster and Hollywood's congratulatory back-patting about being such a grand cultural force, global box office revenue for 2018 hit $41.7 billion, an all-time high. Meanwhile, video game revenue in 2018 reached a new peak of $43.8 billion, overtaking the film industry. For comparison, the total European football market by revenue is now estimated to be worth around $25.1 billion. Last October, Rockstar Games released the video game Red Dead Redemption 2, which cost an estimated $100 million to make, making it one of, if not the most expensive video game made ever. On the flip side, the game generated $725 million in sales from its opening weekend alone, so you can see why they think it's okay to spend that much money on a single game. In addition, GTA 5, by the same studio, launched in September of 2013, is almost certainly the most financially successful media title of all time, taking approximately $6 billion in revenue by 2018. I've quipped to folks before that playing Red Dead Redemption is the cultural equivalent in 2019 of going to Beirut to watch the Ring Cycle, but it can be done from the comfort of your own living room. To use the same timeline as Hollywood, video games are currently going through their Cecil B. DeMille phase in film history. We are only 50 years into the medium. This week's World Cup is perhaps the biggest esports event to burst the mainstream bubble. The Fortnite World Cup was the culmination of a video game competition that began with over 40 million players, whistled down to a final 100. The event peaked in viewership across YouTube and the live streaming platform Twitch at just over 2.3 million people, making Fortnite World Cup the most watched competitive video gaming event of all time, excluding China. But explaining Chinese live streaming culture would be another whole episode in itself. The competitors taking part in the competition, like the winner, Kyle Gerdstor, aka Booger, trains 6 hours a day in front of his computer around his school commitments, which is a similar level of effort child chess grandmasters put in. These kids aren't simply playing video games. I should also note that the Korean Esports Association was created in 2000, so esports sit alongside K-pop in terms of Korea's growing cultural soft power. Taking a wider view of live streaming for a moment, last year the boxing fight between popular YouTubers KSI and Joe Weller became the most watched amateur boxing fight in history, clocking in at around 25 million viewers. For comparison, Man U's recent fourth round win over Arsenal in the FA Cup attracted a peak audience of about 7.6 million on the BBC, and only 9.6 million people watched the Wimbledon men's finals in the UK this year. The finals, I should also note, had a lower prize money than Fortnite, which was open again, I repeat, to 40 million people of all genders who put in as many hours of training as pro tennis players. As we sink below the line, other events also get considerable figures. The Pokemon collectible card game you may remember kids playing in the early 2000s recently had a total cash pot worth $150,000 at its most recent North American International Championship. More impossibly perhaps, the so-called quote-unquote satanic card game Magic the Gathering that even my own secondary school had a panic about in the 90s, in 2018 had $300,000 in prize money with $100,000 top pot for its World Championships. And this year, the Mythic Championship third round, held recently, topped out at a mind-boggling 128,000 concurrent viewers. Whilst we may all agree that there is too much money in sports these days, the fact that there is money and eyeballs to be had. So it's worth mentioning as we close that we're about to see a new platform war of sorts. Whilst we may have heard of YouTube, Netflix and Amazon Prime, there are other players that are focused entirely around live streaming, the main being YouTube Gaming, Twitch, owned by Amazon, and Microsoft Mixer, with buyouts and content battles to rival even the most dramatic reporting on who gets the rights to broadcast a sports ball competition. For example, the Fortnite live streamer and former Twitch denizen, Ninja, is rumoured to be getting paid about $10 million a year for 3 years to stream exclusively on Mixer. If I were you, I'd start live streaming your Bridge Club's competitions.